Well, I always thought you were a hip cat. But how can you say that this world ain't flat? By Jupiter, you don't get no stupider, you don't get no stupider than that. Oh, no, 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 you don't get no stupider than that. Well, I know a lot of guys dropped over the side. You say you happen to know that that just ain't right. Ye gods, you don't get more oddball, you don't get more oddball than that. Oh, no, 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 you don't get more oddball than that. So it's hail and farewell. Hail and farewell. So you're setting your eyes on the new horizon. I say you're heading for the edge of the world. Heading for the edge of the world. Well, you say this whole world is as round as a ball. Well, now what are you, some kind of radical? By Neptune's beard, you don't get no weirder, you don't get no weirder than that. Oh, no, 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 you don't get no weirder than that. So it's...
Let's talk to Andrew Coates. He is Professor of Physics and Deputy Director of the Mullard Space Science Lab at University College London. Hello to you, Professor Andrew Coates.
Morning.
How exciting is this for you?
It's very exciting to actually see a new rocket going into space at any time. And this particular rocket, of course, is the most powerful rocket currently available. It was able to launch successfully and, crucially, actually to land some of the bits of it, the booster rockets which are on the side of it, back on Earth successfully. And it was almost like a ballet, watching a ballet going on, seeing those two land at the same time. So it's all about sort of cheapening the access to space, and this is something which is a remarkable success.
What could the rocket be used for?
Well, the rocket could be used for taking anything into the solar system. I think the main use of it is commercial use in space. So it's reducing the cost of access to space for basically large satellites, which could go to low Earth orbit or to medium Earth orbit. But of course, with a car on top, which is going to be orbiting beyond Mars and out to the asteroid belt, it shows that actually you could go further than that and actually take relatively large rovers or something like that to Mars. In terms of people in space, actually having using the moon possibly as a staging point, that would be the type of thing which would be good in the future. I think with Mars we have to be a little bit careful because we have some very interesting scientific exploration which we need to do. In fact, we're doing that with the ExoMars rover going in 2020. This will drill underneath the surface of Mars to look for signs of life. And so the last thing we want to do is take humans or indeed crash cars into the surface of Mars, because that would just contaminate Mars. So I think we have to be careful, but it does show a new interesting capability of launching into space.
And is this now about a new commercial private race to space?
Yeah, I think mainly it is that. So there are a number of companies which are building rockets which could potentially be used. I mean, at the moment we have NASA, the European Space Agency with its Ariane rockets, the Chinese Space Agency, the Russian Space Agency, the Indian Space Agency. All of these can launch things into space and play very important roles in doing that. So this sort of adds, if you like, to humankind's arsenal which is available to be able to take things into space, trying to reduce the cost. But at the end of the day, it's a commercial operation. And it shows a bit of a shift towards the commercial side, in particular in the US. NASA are also developing the Space Launch System, SLS, which is a rocket which eventually could take humans perhaps to the moon. And so this is an extra launcher. It's not man-rated, so it's not something which can take people, but it's something which I think mainly is going to be used for commercial spaceflight.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Professor Andrew Coates. Thank you.
It is 6:41. You're watching Good Morning Britain. Now, the spectacular launch of the world's most powerful rocket and the sight of that car shooting into space had the world in awe and some confusion last week. I thought it was an extraordinary thing to send to space. I felt like only a man would do that. Is that just me?
See, now,
Why would a man
see,
send
there
her
in
into
one
space?
moment encapsulates what's wrong, because I can't say anything, because if I do that, but you can say only a man would do
Can
that.
I? Was that wrong? Maybe
49 years after the first man walked on the moon, it could have been a woman. We're not saying anything. It seems it's billionaires who are leading the space race rather than the world's most powerful nations. Lorna Edwards explains.
But she's a woman.
A new space race or a billionaire's playground. Whatever you call it, the prospect of human travel deep into space is closer than ever before. But who's leading the way? Billionaire Elon Musk says his launch of the Falcon Heavy last week is a stepping stone to a rocket to Mars. The launch of the 20-story machine cost around $500 million. Amazon billionaire Jeff Bezos landed the first reusable rocket through his company, Blue Origin. Last year he revealed he was selling $1 billion a year of Amazon stock to finance his space ambitions. While Sir Richard Branson set up the world's first commercial space line in 2004. He wants to fly a plane into space and become the space line for Earth at a cost of $250,000 a ticket. And let's not forget about NASA. They're working on their own super rocket to take humans to Mars, which could be the most powerful ever designed.
Hello again. Now we're joined by Nicholas Stott, a former NASA astronaut who spent more than 100 days in space during her 27-year career. Good to see you this morning.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So exciting. Would you have sent a car into space if you had £1 billion?
Maybe. That's very heavy metal.
It's very heavy metal. It seems an odd thing
yeah.
to choose. It's like billionaires having fun, isn't it?
Well, you know, I think it certainly captured the attention of a lot of people.
What is this? Sorry, I know I'm missing the point. Why have we got this here?
You're not missing the point.
That looks like a little bit of.
Is this space
Have a look.
food?
It's a little bit of
Just pick
space
that
food.
up.
I'd go for the
They're
raspberries. I think.
dehydrated strawberries,
Oh, those are strawberries.
I
What does
think.
that mean?
Yeah.
Well, I guess you would explain, talking about the weight of the car there, that it's all about reducing the weight you take up and making it last
That's
longer,
absolutely
isn't it?
horrible.
No, put it in your mouth and let
think-
the moisture, because all the moisture's been
it
sucked
takes the
out of it.
moisture
Yeah.
from your mouth. So look, the exciting
Like fucking
thing
paper,
is, the exciting thing, you're not going to be able to speak now because all the moisture's come from your mouth. The
We'll
exciting
talk.
thing is we've got people putting money back into space travel. That must be an exciting thing for someone like you that's so passionate about it. Is it the money being used in the right way from you as sort of a serious astronaut?
Well, I think so. I think that what's really interesting about what's happening with SpaceX, and you showed Jeff Bezos with Blue Origin and Richard Branson with Virgin Galactic, is that at least on the SpaceX side, there's a partnership with NASA that's going on that's really, really important in all of this, both from a funding standpoint as well as a partnership on the tech. And so as these things are being developed, it's like NASA is doing the turnover that we did with the, with flying airplanes.
I'm really interested to meet you, Nicole. We were talking about this morning for this reason, and I just want to ask you. There's no doubt that space travel creates so much good. There are people, me to a little degree, and that's why it's good for me to meet you, who would say, with all the problems in the world and the amounts, the billions and billions of pounds, could some of that money be better spent dealing with the problems of the world? And I've never met a proper astronaut before, and I want to put that to you. What would you say to people who might have that feeling?
Well, I would say that all of the dollars that are being spent within the space program are being spent for those problems on the world. Everything that we're doing, I mean, I spent over 100 days living and working on the International Space Station. Everything we did every day, everything about the way that spacecraft is built and how it's operated, all of the science that's going on is about improving life on Earth. And even, that's a car, well, that's not a car, that's me doing a spacewalk.
Is that you?
Yeah.
Actually, you in space?
That's the picture
How
that I
cool
know
is
my
that?
mom was afraid when I was in space. It was hanging off the end of the space station.
Wow.
But
What did that feel like?
it felt really wonderful. I mean,
Do you
Do you
miss
feel
it?
that?
Do you
I
miss
do.
it?
I do miss it. Yeah.
Do you feel the speed?
a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You know
Wow.
you're going fast, and are up there, but
Didn't you
you're
try?
the only
Oh, sorry,
person-
go on.
I think you're the only person, aren't you, to have ever painted a picture in space.
See, we're on the money.
yeah.
I was about to say that.
So yeah, it turns out I'm really thankful to the folks on the ground for reminding me that I was going to be living in space too. And people have had musical instruments up on the space station before, but as it turns out, nobody had painted in space before. I didn't know that until I came back.
And this is the painting?
Yeah, so this is a little watercolor I did in space.
You did that in space?
I did that. It was really fun. And you can teach the whole physics of space by painting in space with the ball of water that has to come out to do that. And of course, there's a picture because you can't sit in front of the window at 5 miles a second and paint what you're seeing. So
5 miles a second.
yes.
In terms of coming back to what we were saying just briefly, you would say, and I understand that it's speculate to accumulate, and the money that's being spent is going to be able to cure all sorts of issues that are going on in the world. Is it difficult to go from that to a normal life back on planet Earth?
No. What I've tried to do is take that experience and just apply it to this next adventure. I mean, to me, it's really important to be sharing what's going on up there.
Sure.
From the standpoint of people even knowing, I mean, as long as my 15-year-old son has been alive, we have had people on a continuous basis living off of our planet, going around it every 90 minutes.
And one of the fascinating things I saw, which I'd not seen before, is when we talk about colonising Mars, you think about a human being is going to Mars, possibly, if you watch enough Hollywood movies, because we've ruined planet Earth. One of the interesting things, I think, is that we might actually send some of those industries ruining Earth to Mars, where it can't do damage. Is that realistic? Because that would be a fascinating way to resolve our problems, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of work being done that way. If you look at what Jeff Bezos, his whole philosophy about going to space is how do we, improve life on Earth again? How do we take some of that industry that does do damage here or other processes?
Let's be honest, how cool will that 15-year-old son think she is? My mum went to space. Do you know what I mean?
That's what you care about, isn't it?
No,
I love that.
sometimes.
I love that. Yeah.
Your kids could never say that.
No, they really couldn't.
There's coolness in everything.
Space cadet. They call me a space cadet.
I've got an idea for something, but I can't do it now because you've got to do a competition. But I've got something in my head I want to do before 7. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And
very interesting.
Get to Florida. Get to Florida and see one of these launches. Visit the Kennedy Space Center and train like an astronaut there.
But I'm not eating that food. That's weird.
Yeah, I didn't eat that food either.
We want to take you live to Kennedy Space Center in Florida. There you see SpaceX founder Elon Musk holding a news conference after today's successful launch of the Falcon Heavy rocket. Let's listen in.
I'm still trying to absorb everything that happened because it seems surreal to me. I had this image of just a giant explosion on the pad with, a wheel bouncing down the road and like the Tesla logo landing somewhere with a thud. But fortunately, that's not what happened. The mission seems to have gone really as well as one could have hoped, with the exception of the center core. The 2 side boosters, if you guys were here, you saw them land. That was epic. I think that's probably the most exciting thing I've ever seen, literally, ever. And then the center core obviously didn't land on the drone ship, or we would have shown that. I mean, we're looking at the issue, but I think it didn't have enough propellant to relight the all 3 engines. Sorry, enough for something called TTAB, triethyl aluminum triethyl boron, that's used to light the engines. So it, I believe that the center one lit, I believe, and the outer 2 did not, and that was not enough to slow the stage down. Apparently, it hit the water at 300 miles an hour. And took out 2 of the engines on the drone ship. So if we got the footage, that sounds like some pretty fun footage. So if the cameras didn't get blown up as well, then we'll put that out for just the blooper reel. But that's near the head. We weren't going to reuse that center core anyway, or the 2 side boosters. So side boosters, we'll figure out some place to put them, but. Since they're not Block 5 or version 5, we weren't planning on reusing any of the cores. The upper stage seems to have worked perfectly so far. The two burns were executed correctly, and now we'll see if the upper stage avionics survive quite an arduous trip through the Van Allen belts. Normally, the stage will pass very quickly through the Van Allen belts. Here, it's essentially dwelling there for several hours. And then it's going to do a restart, deplete its propellant, and go to Trans-Mars injection. And the propellant levels all look good. The propellant, after the second burn of the upper stage, we were only 0.3 sigma away from predictions, so which is basically very minor. So it has plenty of propellant to complete the Trans-Mars injection, assuming that the fuel doesn't freeze and the oxygen doesn't boil off and the electronics don't get fried. So those are the issues. We'll find out in a few hours if that burn is successful. I don't think there's anything else I know that's worth mentioning. I went out to the landing zone, took a look at the side boosters. They look in really good condition. So they're both reflyable, although, as I said, they're combination of version 3 and version 4. So we're only going to be reflying really version 5 at this point. That launches shortly, and that'll be our mainstay. We'll stick to version 5 for the Falcon architecture. We don't expect to have a version 6. All right, any questions that I haven't answered? I'll do my best to answer them, but I'm not sure if I have the information yet, but I'll try.
So we're going to start in the room, and the first question goes to David Curley from ABC News.
Elon, spectacular. What did you learn? What did Falcon Heavy teach you?
Teaches, I guess, told me like crazy things can come true. Because he'd said like I didn't really think this would work. Because when I see the rocket lift off, I see like 1,000 things that could not work, and it's amazing when they do. And I was really seeing the two boosters land synchronized, really just like the simulation. I mean, it makes me think like that could be quite a scalable approach. You know, you could imagine large numbers of those just coming in, landing, taking off, landing, doing many flights per day. So I think it gives me a lot of faith for our next architecture, the sort of the interplanetary spaceship. You have different names for it, but BFR is kind of the code name. And it gives me confidence that BFR is really quite workable. I was actually looking at the side boosters, and like they're pretty big. You know, they're 16 stories tall, 60-foot leg span. But we need to be way bigger than that. So I think it's given me a lot of confidence that we can make the BFR design work. Yeah, it's. I have tremendous confidence, obviously, in the SpaceX team. So I think we can really do this a lot, you know, and keep advancing the technology to achieve full and rapid reusability, which would have a profound effect on the future. And one of the interesting things about, say, Falcon Heavy versus Falcon 9 is that Falcon Heavy has the same level of expendability as Falcon 9. So if you look at, say, the price of Falcon 9 is $60 million, Falcon Heavy is 90, even though it's got 3 times as much capability. Because in both cases, the only thing that's expended is the upper stage. We're going to start recovering the fairings, the big nose cone. We're going to recover that, recover the boosters. And so there's really, the cost difference really between a Falcon 9 and a Falcon Heavy is minor.
The next question from Marcia Dunn at Associated Press.
Marcia Dunn, AP. What was going through your mind? How amazed were you to see your roadster up there with Starman just cruising along with the Blue Planet? And how long will we be getting live views, do you think, from the car?
Well, I think it looks so ridiculous and impossible. And you can tell it's real because it looks so fake, honestly. Like, we'd have way better CGI if it was fake. And you know, the colors all look kind of weird in space. There's no atmospheric occlusion. You know, like everything looks too crisp. But we didn't really test any of those materials for, you know, is it space hardened or whatever, you know. So it just has the same seats that like a normal car has. It's just literally a normal car in space, which I kind of like the absurdity of that. And if you look closely, on the dashboard, there's a tiny roadster with a tiny spaceman. So, because Hot Wheels made a Hot Wheels roadster, and a friend of mine suggested, hey, why don't you put that Hot Wheels roadster with a tiny spaceman on in the car too? I'm like, that'd be cool. Sure. So we did that. I mean, it's kind of silly and fun, but I think that's, you know, silly, fun things are important. And normally for a new rocket, you know, they'd launch like a block of concrete or something like that. I mean, that's so boring. And I think that's just the imagery of it is something that's going to get people excited around the world. And it's still tripping me out. I mean, I'm tripping balls here.
Nick, next question in the room. How about Brendan Byrne from WMFE, the NPR affiliate in Orlando?
Yeah, congratulations, Elon. Great launch today. Where do you see the Falcon Heavy fitting into this launch industry? Is this something that is going to be for more national security?
All right, you've been listening to Elon Musk there talking about SpaceX's successful launch of its Falcon Heavy rocket. A successful launch, but as we heard from Musk there a short time ago, not necessarily a fully successful mission, in that center core booster did not land on its drone ship as had been intended. In fact, Elon Musk said that center booster hit the water at 300 miles per hour. The plan was for it to land back on that autonomous drone ship. It didn't do that. Nevertheless, Elon Musk there saying that it taught me crazy things can come true, meaning that the launch itself and everything going according to plan of the Falcon Heavy, essentially 3 rockets bolted together, was something that he said, quote, I didn't think this could work. We're going to continue to monitor this, and we should tell you that our CBS News space consultant, Bill Harwood, is also in the room there. We will bring you...
Farewell. Hail and farewell. So you're setting your eyes on the new horizon. I say you're heading for the edge of the world. So it's hail and farewell. Hail and farewell. So you're setting your eyes on the new horizon. Well now, there ain't no flies on me, 'cause I'm wise, and I say you'll be so surprised. You'll laugh till you cry.